What do you want to ask?
What do you want to tell?
When I think of masculinity, I often think about a weight of having to be a particular way. I don't know if it gives you the freedom to be yourself.
What guys will do, they'll make sure the car's right, they'll make sure the plumbing's right on the shed, they'll do all that stuff, but they don't do anything for themselves.
I'm so much happier in conflict zones than I am actually being in normal society.
It seems like I've just had this fun kind of life, but when things went real bad, I'd lost all sense of reality.
If you met 25-year-old John Anderson, would you hang out with him?
Well, that's a good question for anyone, isn't it? Would you hang out with yourself?
When I'm up, I'm so bulletproof.
But when you're down, you can actually see what you're doing, and that's depressing.
I walk alone. Me and my thoughts. I will walk from Preston into town. I'll do the things I used to do. People tell me I look alright. I'm looking healthy. They say, hey, it's nice to see you. We'll have to stay in touch.
We are absolutely honoured to have one of the people that is featured in that documentary, and he is our special guest to round off. It's been a really cool week of music, but he's none other than Jake Simkin. Good morning, Bruz. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Morning, man. How are you?
Yeah, top of the morning to you.
Yeah. Excellent. You been enjoying married life?
I have. I hear about all this honeymoon period stuff, but look, it's been a dream to be able to set up and think long term. I think that's what can be really hard sometimes when you're not set up in a situation like that. Is you're not sure how long things are going to last, but you'd like to think that marriage means something a little bit more long term than the other things that kind of. But hey, get away from you! Don't you start derailing.
I got put on to you.
Don't you start derailing this. This is about you. We've got the Walkabout Barber in the house, another man who does some incredible things in the mental health space. We've got already the chat line going off, just going, wow, what a documentary! It looks absolutely brilliant. But Jake, you're one of five people. One of a few people that featured in that documentary. Why were you selected in regards to that movie, and what's your story that really relates to being a part of that feature doco?
Okay, so my friend Genevieve, the director of the film, she and I worked together like probably about 15, 16 years ago. And I worked shooting her film, and we kind of became really good friends. She actually made a documentary about my grandmother and her love for playing Farmville and a whole bunch of computer games and stuff.
No way. Your grandmother plays Farmville?
Yeah. So she used to play Farmville. She had something like 30 farms, and she farmed it from the instant she woke up till the time she went to bed. She had over 500 sort of like friends online, and she would chat to them daily.
Wow. Wow, so she was ahead of the online curve of connecting with people who've been doing it a lot last year. She's been building houses, shopping, and I don't know anything about Farmville, so I'm not going to pretend.
But yeah, she used to play computer games like SimCity, everything like that.
Cool.
She used to sort of like, she'd have problems and stuff, so she'd call me up and say, how do you play this game? And I would have to try and learn it and master it so I could tell and teach her how to do it.
Oh, been there, brothers. Been there. My mum asks me, how do you work the Google? Where do you start? You know, where do you start? What's the Google? What's the Google, mum?
Yeah, my grands actually used to be quite quite advanced.
Yeah.
So she'd been playing computer games since I was like 6 years old. And she used to give me, there used to be back in the day when there was Commodore 64s, like a programming thing, and you used to be able to program a game and you had to type it all in, and then you record it onto cassette, and then that would be a game, and it would take like 10 minutes for it to load up and it would work.
Incredible.
It'd be something like Frogger or something like that.
Yeah. Man, you've had a very unique life, and a lot of us, it is safe to say, a lot of us wouldn't have any idea. No, we would have some idea, but the idea would be well off. It wouldn't be. We weren't there. You've dealt with some pretty serious life traumatizing situations. You're can you tell us a little bit about that? You're a war photographer. Benny Mac said you're a conflict specialist. Tell us a little bit about what that means and some of the how long you've been doing that, and how did you fall into one of the most dangerous settings on the planet, thinking I'm going to take some snaps here?
So I saw the tsunami in Banda Aceh sort of like come take place in 2004, and I was really interested in going and helping out and just see what the world was like. I think I was tired of the normal everyday rat race. I worked in film and TV. I was a film producer. I was a cinematographer. I loved that, but it wasn't the be-all, end-all in my life. And I wanted to learn about the human condition and what it meant to suffer, to feel joy, to feel everything in this world. And Australia is a very closed environment. And so lucky enough, I got like a job to go and photograph for an NGO in Banda Aceh, and I got to be one of the first people to go there. And it was very distressing because I was watching a lot of people that were, well, deceased, dead, they'd been drowned, being dug up. I actually couldn't take any photos for the first week. It was that distressing. I couldn't photograph people crying in grief and sadness. And I actually broke down and cried on the beach. And there was these three kids, and these three kids were playing in the sand, and they were making sand castles. And they wanted me to take their photo, and I took their photo, and it was amazing to me because I could see these kids still playing and still finding hope. And beyond that was 5 kilometers of destruction and damage, people's houses and stuff. And I pushed through and I said, well, I'm here for a purpose, and I'm here in this life to try and help people. And if it's my photos can touch somebody to, I don't know, give donations or just at least be aware of what is happening in this world, then I'd done my job. So I came back home after 6 months of doing that. I think I felt depressed that a lot of people in Australia didn't really give a shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say shit on radio.
Well, it's PG rated, but I'm sure the parents can explain what the word SHIT means. It's all good. Yeah.
I wanted more, and there was a documentary on women's rights around the world, and I went and did that, and I ended up in India. I covered stories on female feticide and acid burn victims, and the problems of women in India. And I end up, instead of going home, I decided I would sell my round the world ticket, and I would buy a motorbike, and then I rode around India, and then I rode around Pakistan. I came back home briefly to Australia, and one of my friends, Wally DeBacker from Gautier, was becoming quite successful, and he kind of called me up at the time that I had to kind of leave Pakistan, and he said, well, how do you feel about being on stage and doing VJing and stuff and putting all these video projections and stuff? So I got to work with him.
Wow.
Building all these video projections. We did some other art installation stuff where I could actually present some of the stuff that I'd seen in these like developing countries to be put on the screen with him playing, and that was quite amazing. But I kind of had to keep on moving on, and Afghanistan, somebody wanted to see if I wanted to come to Afghanistan, who was a friend of the director that I worked with on the documentary on women's rights around the world. I had a meeting with him for 10 minutes, and he said, "You're the guy that I want to come with me to Afghanistan. It's going to be fun." It was sort of a comedy / travel show called The Extreme Tourist.
Yeah, right.
And it was a lot of fun. We met a lot of, you think Afghanistan is a dangerous place, but there were so many amazing people, and I became compelled to stay there. So 6 months turned into 6 years, basically. And
wow.
I did a lot of good. I helped work for an NGO called Skaterstan. I helped teach kids skateboarding. I taught them art. I taught them filmmaking. I taught how to take images and present work. I worked in some of the most dangerous areas of Afghanistan. I worked in places like Helmand, in Uruzgan, and I was teaching Afghan kids basically photography, news reporting, and how to make a great image, and just try and find life that was sort of centered around being depressed about what was happening with this war.
So is your natural, going back there, was your first knee-jerk reaction, call it that if you will, is far out? And a lot of us, when we've travelled to, I just came back from Cambodia a moment ago, a few years back now, but the last trip, but we're not talking on the same scale. You're in the middle of war-torn, but you naturally want to go, I don't think Australia knows this, and you try and connect that up to go, I got to grab this and take it back. But you've kind of gone, scrap that. The work actually needs to be done here. I'm staying. It's an incredible decision to make. Incredible decision to make.
Well, you see all these kids, and you see that you could help them with their dreams, and you could help them find something in life other than believing that you are what your father is, and you should probably do his job. You probably don't need education. You don't need all these things. No, you need education. You need to be able to do what you dream. And I've been that type of person all my life, where I've wanted to learn something or I wanted to do something, and I would go out and do it. And learn it and try, and I felt like there was all these like girls and boys who didn't have those ability to be able to do it. So if I could help them, that meant something to me. And it becomes difficult where your friends and stuff are not really interested in that sort of stuff, but I was, and and it keeps on unfortunately kept on leading into a circle of where I think of Afghanistan as an abusive husband, basically. There is a lot of things about the culture, and there's a lot of things that it's really difficult to change. Some of the people are super stubborn. They don't want to change, and they don't really want to see a future for their girls or their kids, other than living a very simple life. And it's hard to sort of push that boundary, and it gets very depressing.
You came out. You're not there anymore. You're here talking to us. Have you called it a day in that kind of field? And what's your transition like so far been like? We got a little snippet of what your thoughts are through that documentary, Happy Sad Man. Tell us a little bit about the conflict you've got with trying to bring yourself back or forward, whatever you want to call it, into society, trying to put that in a part of your life so it doesn't affect your life now. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the last things I used to do was cover Syria, and I covered mainly the battle against ISIS and the Syrian revolution. I had changed my life from Afghanistan to moving to war photography and conflict journalism. I worked as a freelancer, and I guess through the last few years of my life doing that job, freelancing became very difficult, and nobody wanted to take the responsibility if you were kidnapped, you were killed, or tortured. And so they would be very closed off in taking your work. They would pay you less money to be able to do it. You were kind of doing it out of your own back. And I was doing this for many years because I believed that we should do something about Syria, and we should be able to help these people in the Middle East. And I was becoming more depressed by it because I wasn't able to go and do my work. I did a lot of medical work by the end of it, where I went, stuff it, I'm here. I've learned all this medical stuff over the last few years, and I can put it into practice. So in places like Aleppo, where I was getting bombed, instead of taking photos, I was helping the wounded people getting out of the buildings that had been hit by missile strikes and by barrel bombs that come out of helicopters, and trying to decide who was going to make it to hospital and who wasn't going to make it to hospital. And fixing up wounds, whatever I could. But it became, more and more difficult to sort of be in these places because governments don't want you to see what is happening.
Wow.
So I also have, she's now a 12-year-old daughter, and she is like the love of my life. And the mother of my daughter, we're not together. She always said, when your daughter's a 15-year-old little rebel that's out of control, she'll become your problem. So don't be living in somewhere like Somalia or because this is where I'm going to be sending her. I had to take a decision to try and make Australia home. So
talk about your battles with you've got motorbikes. I mean, you talked about how you jumped on a motorbike and explored around Pakistan. Is that where your love of motorbikes happened? It's kind of a full circle moment. Now you use your love of motorbikes for, would you call it trauma counselling?
Yeah, look, I love riding motorbikes. I rode all through Pakistan, Afghanistan. I had 6 motorcycles in Afghanistan. I've traveled all through. I've also had a motorcycle from South Africa, and I rode it to the Congo to go and build a children's TV show.
Yeah, right.
I've ridden motorbikes in Somalia, crazy enough. And I just find being on a motorcycle is my conversation with God, I guess, or my conversation with the road. You know, for people who are probably not religious, you can at least like process in your brain things that are happening in your life. And that was my my way of having conversation with what was happening in my life, and I guess my regrets or things that inspired me. And so I've had this passion and love for riding motorbikes. And when I came back home, back to Australia, I found a place called Custom Commune, is where I met Benny. And it's basically a group for, I guess, like-minded people who love motorbikes, who like builds and just going on a daily ride, having barbecues, hanging out, and that's what I needed. I needed people that were like-minded that I could hang out with, not necessarily be able to talk about the problems in my life, because there is a lot of people that probably don't understand what I've been through. And if I keep talking about this stuff, people probably may shy away, or, you know, there are people that sympathize, but there are people that just go, okay, well, you know, there's something a little bit off about this guy. And
yeah, sure.
But, you know, it's a slow process. And I think, you know, when you get to know people and you go, well, this is me, and I was a war photographer, and I covered 15 years of my life in war zone, and I've been shot at, you know, I've been stabbed, I've been, you know, I've had all these things done to me, and people go, fuck, you know, and, you know, yeah, it's a hard life, and it's hard to find people that you've had similar
something really stood out in that trailer. Sorry, Jake, sorry to cut you off there. It's something that stood out here. I'm more comfortable in conflict zones than normal society. Is that still true? Being back for how long have you been back now, and are you progressing that? What do you mean by that?
I've been probably home for 3 years now. It still feels like that at times. There are probably times that I get quite depressed because the world is still stuffed up, and you know, you see things that are happening in Palestine at this current moment, and you wish you were there, being able to, you know, tell people what's happening, or be able to help people that are in need, and you can't. And most of the people around you, they probably don't care what's happening in Palestine. You know, they're caring about, you know, what you know, what they're going to eat for dinner, or, you know, that you know, finally we don't need to wear masks, or, you know, just the simple things that happen in Australia. You know, and it's hard to sort of to be able to be friends with people that are not, they don't care as much, and that's probably what I suffer from. So I suffer from a condition called moral injury, and most of the time I feel like I haven't done enough for this world to be able to help people. And even though I've spent as many years as I have, I still feel like I haven't done enough, and the world is a terrible place. And I'm just enjoying my life here in Australia, and I'm making motorbikes, and you know, and I can have a latte, and I can do all of these comfort things. So yeah,
so you got this war with, like, enjoying that so much, and where you know what's really happening at the same time as you drinking your latte. So are you saying your experience whilst drinking that latte, even we're using a micro moment, is not as enjoyable, or is not the same as the person next to you that actually is sitting back and on the local Wi-Fi and just sitting around scrolling through their news or Facebook or whatever, and you're kind of like, a big part of my heart's this is, I've got to be doing more. Is that what moral injury is? Is that what, like, are you wrestling all the time, and is that a tiring thing?
Oh, it's tiring. It's tiring. I think maybe I've gotten a little bit less on social media, so you know, but I still think about a lot of the friends that I have that still live in these places. You know, the children that I taught skateboarding to, you know, they're all my friends on Facebook, and they send me messages. There's all my Syrian friends, and you know, you all wish the best for them, and but yeah, you're so far away.
I got a question from the chat line, Jake, and I really appreciate your time, man. It's we're not talking about something that's you can just jump on and chat with your local barista or something. So I really appreciate you at 7:30 taking your time to show us a little fragment of your life. Someone's asked, was there something that helped you to process the hardship and trauma that you saw in your experiences?
Was there something? Yeah, it still goes down to riding motorbikes. You know,
Wow.
everywhere I've ever been, I had sort of like a motorbike. But what really got me through is my daughter, and you know, having my daughter in my life. Basically, I knew that I probably at particular times, you know, there were times where it was really dark, and you know, from feeling quite ill, and I thought that sometimes it'd be just nice to just, I guess, end my life, you know. But I want to see my daughter grow, and I wanted to see her, you know, become what she wants to become in life, and do what I can do to make sure she gets there, you know. So no, it's no time to die, basically. But yeah, I always have in my head that I hope that she sees me as a great influence, and hopefully that she wants to, you know, I don't know, hopefully I don't want it to be like me, but yeah,
without going through what you did to that length. But
yeah, but to be amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what you've done and probably continue to do and will do is just go that extra mile to be considerate of people around you. I think a lot of us have, like you said, we're comfortable in our world, and we almost like we give the leftovers to others.
Yeah.
We give the leftovers to whatever we kind of could, but it's always look after ourselves first, too much, and then with whatever leftover we've got, we look around and go, well, that's still within my comfort zone. I might just help there. And then we walk away feeling really good about ourselves, where you are definitely an encouragement to go a bit further outside of the boundary and listen and do what they need you to do, not what you want to do. Does that make any sense? Is that right?
Yeah, that makes some sense.
You know, if your daughter saw that in you, which how could you not? I mean, it's a pretty serious thing what you've done, and you've clearly said don't go do what I did, but there's certainly a call to arms to say look around you and see what's needed to be done, and don't mind getting in there and getting dirty. I think something that stood out as well, Jake, people rather than symptoms. Huge.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think if you're going to walk away from this conversation or anything, just be nice to people. You know, be nice to your neighbor. Build a stronger community. We are all human, basically. And the best way to say it is like, you know, fate didn't decide where you were born. You know, be kind to refugees because they had to leave their home. They had to leave everything behind. It's not an easy thing to go, I have nothing and I need to leave, you know, my, you know, yeah. I mean, from the Aboriginal community and stuff is that we have taken their land and stuff, and, you know, the damage has been done, but we can be able to repair problems and open a hand, you know. We are all human beings at the end of the day.
Jake, I'm going to put you a bit on the spot here. Do you mind if I show one of your photos?
Yeah, sure.
Off, I think for people to get a little bit of an idea of what kind of photography you do. I think this is, yep, Jake Simkins. It's not too traumatic, people, so you can have a look. I just want you to explain a little bit. I think it'd be a nice idea for you to explain a little bit about the photo, what was going on around the photo, and can you remember taking this photo?
Yep. Yeah. So this was for I've taken these photos for Medicine Sans Frontiers. Um, I was documenting the Kurdish. Basically, Turkey had invaded a certain part of Rojava, which was Kurdish Syria, and basically they had tried to take over this one town, and they displaced, tens of thousands of people. And this woman was, basically talking about the loss of her family. And, basically they've now moved to an area, and the Turkish army has actually destroyed the water pipes that sort of pipe the water. And so there is actually no fresh water in that area. All of these women are living in basically a primary school. So there's something about like 50 families, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you carry, I mean, something that's really evident. You carry a story that is way more in depth than the common person. When we look at a photo, I look at that and I feel emotion. I can only think of and imagine if you've heard them, you've got a voice to attach to them, you most likely would have stopped and had a chat with them. When you can clearly hear that the surroundings of them. That's deep stuff to carry. That's just big. It's big time. I don't know how you do it, and I'm so thankful you're still here in this world to be able to. It sounds like you've had some really scary moments where you can't handle what you've seen and you feel. So, but can you explain the tattoos on her chin?
They're like tribal tattoos, and that sort of describes from her Kurdish like heritage and stuff, from what particular tribe she's from.
Wow.
In Syria.
Wow, man.
Sort of the rest of those women, when they're later on, will end up getting like tattoos like that. Yeah. So this is from a school, this photo and stuff. I called the project Schools on the Moon. And so one of my friends, Z, he told me about these schools on the borders of Pakistan and Afghanistan that literally had no shelter. And so I went with him out to these schools, and they'll just open up to the elements. There was nothing that shades them from the cold and the wind and the heat. So this is like basically, I think it was like 2 or 3 degrees at the time when I took this photo. And yeah, it is cold. So I took all these photos, and we managed to sell a lot of these prints. And with that money, we actually bought tents. And we bought tents for all these kids. There are like 50 schools like this. And we managed to at least house two of the schools fully furnished with tents.
Wow.
And then we managed to get a bunch more for another 8 schools. It still doesn't cover a lot, but it gave hope to the families of these kids, and they saw that somebody cared. And then people started donating their time, like laborers of the kids, and they started building actual structures and schools.
Wow.
So the tents end up getting packed away for a classroom, and they were able to give the tent to another school that needed it.
Far out.
So this is probably my favorite thing that I've ever done to help people, was to help try and build schools for these kids. And
yeah.
It's only tents, but it gave so much more.
Jake, have you got a website?
Yeah, I do. At the moment, it's www.developmentpictures.carbonmade.com. It's a real difficult thing. I should just have had somebody else took developmentpictures.com. Unfortunately.
If anyone wants to find out more, please type in Jake Simkin. His name's at the top there. Type in Jake Simkin photos, and a wealth of photos that he's done for some other places, but also his own stuff. And I'm sure you'll find it if Development Pictures, if you can't find that, you'll find Jake. The documentary is actually available. It's not open to the public. I had a bit of trouble finding it. How do we watch the Happy Sad Man doco?
If you're in Newcastle, it'll be screening in 2 days. But next month on the 16th of June, it'll be playing at the Nova.
Oh, brilliant. I was about to email them and go, get this doco down here, because it's all via request. They want you to pull it together, and it's not playing in cinemas.
I mean, if you want it to be screening, you can send a request to Genevieve, the director. She manages pretty much almost all of it, and she will organise a place where you want to screen it. So if you want to screen it
down in Geelong,
in Geelong and stuff, it actually played in Geelong, at the theatre in Geelong. But if you want to play it at your, community group, or you could play it at, from a men's shed to a church to wherever you could probably get a facility. Genevieve would be glad to be able to present the film. So before COVID kind of kicked in, we were planning to bring it to a lot of the men's sheds in the country, and at least have it as a free thing. People could go to a sausage sizzle and then watch the film.
Cool.
You got to convince the men to come out. It's like, oh, well, if the kids are going to go down to the sausage sizzle for free, I may as well come down to the football ground. So we had a couple of the main character is Johnny.
Okay.
He's an old guy.
Guys.
So he lives in Kajawa, and we went and we played at his football oval at Kajawa, and
cool.
Over 200 people turned up.
Wow.
Set up picnic things. So don't feel like it needs to be in a proper cinema or something. As long as we can get a projector out there and some and some speakers and stuff, and people can hear it. Request for it to be played, because we want it to hit communities, and it might be a little bit more difficult just if we put it on TV or something like that, and maybe do you really want to watch TV and watch something about men's mental health?
No, it sounds great. We've got already someone suggested a little. There's a cinema called the Pivotonian in Geelong. I'm mark my words. I'm gonna get off air here and message her and try and maybe we could coax you down to have a little Q&A.
Well, I do a fair amount of Q&A, and I've travelled on my motorbike to up to New South Wales and stuff to be able to talk about the film. I actually even rode the motorbike to South Australia, to Adelaide, and
right
beyond Adelaide. So if it has a bit more momentum, I'd probably ride more around Australia and see it, because there's one thing I probably missed out on life was to really go on a road trip. And I actually bought a really old Harley Davidson sort of iron head chopper, and I've been building it at Custom Commune, and we've almost got it finished, and I was planning to make a road movie and go around the road and see Australia for what it is.
Let me know when you do it, man. I've got plenty of people that would love to meet you out in the communities.
Definitely.
Brother, we've got to keep moving. It is 8:10. I'm going to finish off with some Teskey Brothers as requested by you, because we love the Teskey Brothers on here. I really appreciate your time, Jake, and it's just a privilege to have you on air today. Thanks for sharing some of your self.
Thanks, brother.
No worries, man.
It's always good.
We'll catch up with you soon.
All right.